The adherents and organizers of the Nazi Party developed a new political ideology known as Nazism. This ideology emerged largely as a reaction to Germany's defeat in World War I. On November 11, 1918, the war abruptly ended with the signing of an armistice that surprised the German troops on the front lines. The frontline troops did not feel defeated, and they wondered why the armistice happened so quickly that they had to leave their positions immediately when they were still in enemy territory. There was a growing myth among surrendering German soldiers that they had been stabbed in the back by traitorous elements at home, such as liberal politicians, socialists, Jews, and other revolutionary groups. When the soldiers returned to Germany, they found their families suffering from hunger and diseases such as tuberculosis and influenza spreading across the country. In Germany, politics were divided into two poles, conservatives and socialists. Each group became radicalized during the crisis. The situation worsened with the rise of the Munich Soviet Republic movement, which was fanned by the left-wing Weimar Republic in Munich. The government deployed the military and the Freikorps to put down the rebellion. The fact that some of the Weimar Republic leaders were Jewish reinforced anti-Semitic prejudices among the right, which increasingly equated communism or Bolshevism with Judaism. As a result, anti-Jewish sentiment grew more widespread in Germany. The Freikorps are applauded in Munich after the suppression of the Weimar Republic. Jews were often blamed for many of Germany's social and economic problems. In early 1918, a party called the Free Committee for the Peace of German Workers was founded in Bremen. Anton Drexler founded a branch of this association on March 7, 1918, in Munich. Drexler himself was one of the opponents of the peace treaty between the Allies and Germany that ended World War I in 1918. He shared the views of many militant nationalists of the time, opposed to the Treaty of Versailles, anti-Semitic and anti-Marxist, and a believer in the superiority of the Aryan race. In 1919, Drexler, with Gottfried Feder, Dietrich Eckart, and Karl Harrer, changed the party's name to the German Workers' Party, or DAP for short. After World War I, Adolf Hitler returned to Munich with no clear career prospects. Having no formal education or career prospects, he tried to remain in the army for as long as possible. In July 1919, he was appointed an intelligence agent to influence other soldiers and investigate the DAP. During this investigation, Hitler became interested in the anti-Semitic, nationalist, anti-capitalist, and anti-Marxist ideas of Anton Drexler. He even had an argument with a visitor who questioned the validity of Gottfried Feder's arguments in favor of Bavarian separatism and against capitalism. In the debate, Hitler managed to impress people with his speech skills. From this incident, Drexler finally encouraged him to join, and Hitler finally joined towards the end of September 1919. In Bayern, in 1921, Hitler was named leader of the small German Workers' Party. Its name was changed to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or abbreviated as Nazi or NSDAP. Back then, the Nazis were just one of many right-wing parties in Munich, and they all said the same thing. Versailles was evil, and the Jews were behind it. But Hitler's oratorical skills coupled with his fiery passion attracted Bavarians to the new Nazi Party. In January 1923, the situation in the Ruhr became even more tense when French troops arrived to demand payment of war indemnities, an act that not only alienated but also insulted the German people, who considered it a cruel attempt at revenge. Nationalist sentiments began to grow in Germany. As a result, the number of Nazi Party members increased dramatically. In Munich in 1923, in an atmosphere of crisis caused by the occupation of the Ruhr, Hitler and his Nazis began to act. On November 8, 1923, at a right-wing political meeting held at the Bürgerbrau Keller, Hitler stood on stage and stopped the meeting, calling for a national revolution to overthrow the left-wing government in power in Berlin. The next day, on November 9, 1923, the Nazis, in collaboration with other right-wing parties, organized a parade in Munich to garner public support. However, their ambitions were soon halted when they were stopped by the police at the Feldherrenhalle War Monument. Initially, the Nazis hoped that the military and police would support the parade and join them, but the police did not. Eventually, there was resistance that made 4 police officers and 16 Nazis lose their lives. Hitler's coup was in fact inspired by Benito Mussolini, who also carried out their coup called the March to Rome. Hitler was then tried along with other parade leaders in early 1924 on charges of assaulting the police, along with riots that were created, including bank robberies. However, during the trial, Hitler demonstrated his extraordinary oratorical talent, which managed to melt the hearts of the judge hearing his case. As a result of this incident, the judge sympathized with him and even sent a message to the Court of Appeal to reduce Hitler's jail time. As a result, Hitler only had to serve 9 months in Landsberg prison. Hitler was released from prison on December 20, 1924. On February 16, 1925, Hitler convinced the Bavarian authorities to lift the ban on the NSDAP, and the party was officially re-established on February 26, 1925, with Hitler as its leader. The Nazi Party may never have come to power if not for the Great Depression. In 1930, the German economy was hit by mass unemployment and widespread business failures. The Social Democrats and Communists were divided and unable to formulate effective solutions. This provided an opportunity for the Nazis and Hitler's message, which blamed the crisis on Jewish financiers and the Bolsheviks. In the Reichstag elections of September 1930, the Nazis won 18% of the vote and became the second largest party in the Reichstag after the Social Democrats. By 1932, Germany's political crisis deepened. In the 1932 presidential election, Hitler challenged President Paul von Hindenburg, and although he lost, his popularity grew. In the July 1932 Reichstag election, the Nazi Party reached its peak by winning 37.3% of the vote, making it the largest party in parliament. However, Hitler still lacked a clear majority, and the Reichstag remained divided, without the ability to form a stable government. Nonetheless, this success made it increasingly difficult for the Nazis to be ignored by Germany's conservative political elite. They began to see the Nazi Party as a potential tool to control political chaos and suppress the communists. On the other hand, Hitler demanded the chancellorship and full authority, but Hindenburg initially refused, not believing that Hitler was fit to lead the country. The political crisis intensified in late 1932 and early 1933. Previous chancellors, such as Heinrich Brüning and Franz von Papen, failed to stabilize the situation. In the end, Franz von Papen, who felt he could control Hitler, conspired with conservatives and convinced Hindenburg that giving Hitler the chancellorship would be the best solution to maintain order. On January 30, 1933, Adolf Hitler was finally appointed Chancellor of Germany. On April 1, 1933, the party boycotted all Jewish-owned shops for a full day. The Nazis made the Jews the scapegoat for the defeat in World War I and many other failures. Most Germans tolerated this because they considered it part of the revolution. In 1933, the SA conducted a mass burning of forbidden books, especially those by Jewish authors. Furthermore, Ernst Julius Röhm, the SA's supreme leader, also demanded that his troops be incorporated into the regular German military forces. The military strongly rejected this idea. The rejection of the stormtroopers was motivated by the military's dislike of their behavior and appearance. However, after Röhm's assassination in 1934 and the purge of SA officers accused of preparing a revolution, the armed forces were grateful and became loyal to Hitler. Prior to Hindenburg's death on August 2, 1934, Hitler ordered the cabinet to pass the law concerning the head of state of the German Reich, which stipulated that after Hindenburg died, the office of president would be abolished, and his powers would be merged with those of the chancellor under the title of leader and chancellor of the Reich. Soon after Hindenburg's death, Hitler moved quickly. On August 19, 1934, Hitler called a national referendum to ratify the merger of the chancellor and president into one position. In the referendum, around 90% of voters approved this move. This was the final step in Germany's transformation from a democratic republic to a totalitarian state under absolute Nazi control. Under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, the German people felt a significant change in their country, which was considered to be getting better. With strong determination, Hitler ordered German troops to re-enter the Rhineland region, which was previously lost due to the Treaty of Versailles. Apart from the Rhineland, Hitler also ordered his troops to enter another German-speaking region, Austria, on March 15, 1938. He also ordered German troops to annex Czechoslovakia the following year. Although the country was improving in various aspects, the conditions faced by the Jews were quite the opposite. Through intense propaganda, Hitler and the Nazi Party claimed that Jewish influence in Germany had become too great, inciting the public against them. In Austria itself, SS troops began to carry out the action of cleansing the Jews from the land that is now part of the German state. Austrian Jews were also forced to do jobs designed to humiliate them, such as scrubbing the streets clean. Unable to bear the discrimination and harsh treatment, thousands of Jews left Germany throughout the 1930s. After annexing Czechoslovakia, Hitler's attention turned to Poland. His greatest ambition was for Lebensraum, or living space for the German nation, especially in Eastern Europe, and Poland became his next target. Tensions between Germany and Poland were mounting. Hitler began issuing military threats, and on August 23, 1939, he made the surprising move of signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union. This pact was a non-aggression agreement between the two countries, which also secretly contained the division of Polish territory between Germany and the Soviet Union. The pact ensured that Hitler would not face a war on two fronts when invading Poland, as he had in World War I. On September 1, 1939, Hitler launched a massive attack on Poland in an operation known as Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. 2 days later, on September 3, 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany, keeping their promise to Poland to protect the country if attacked. Nonetheless, help from the Allies came too late to save Poland, which was quickly crushed by Germany's vastly superior military might. On September 17, 1939, the Soviet Union, in accordance with the agreement in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, also invaded the eastern part of Poland. Within weeks, Poland fell and was divided between Germany and the Soviet Union. Finally, on October 6, 1939, Poland was completely conquered by Germany and the Soviet Union. After successfully conquering Poland, Germany then launched its next invasion of Western Europe, such as Denmark, Norway, France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. After controlling almost all of Western Europe, Hitler began preparing for his next ambitious plan, which was the invasion of the Soviet Union. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa. Although initially successful in repelling Soviet forces, the offensive eventually suffered major setbacks due to the staunch resistance of Soviet troops and the extreme cold of winter. By the end of 1941, Germany began to taste defeat in several important campaigns, such as the failed invasion of Moscow and the crushing defeat at the Battle of Stalingrad in early 1943. Stalingrad became a pivotal turning point in the war on the Eastern Front, where Nazi forces suffered their first major defeat that drained their strength and morale. This defeat paved the way for a massive counteroffensive by the Soviet Union, which slowly began to push the German forces back. At the same time on the Western Front, Britain and the United States intensified their attacks on Nazi forces. On June 6, 1944, the Western Allies launched a massive invasion of Normandy, known as D-Day. This attack marked the start of the Allied campaign to liberate Western Europe from the Nazis' grip. Germany was forced to fight on two fronts, facing attacks from the west by the Allies and from the east by the Soviet Union. In early 1945, Allied forces from the west and Soviet forces from the east began to approach Berlin. The relentless attacks and massive bombings shattered the Nazis' military power. An increasingly desperate Hitler took refuge in his underground bunker in Berlin. On April 30, 1945, as Soviet forces approached the center of Berlin, Hitler committed suicide along with his wife Eva Braun, just days before Germany's complete defeat. Finally, on May 8, 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allies, marking the end of World War II in Europe. After the defeat, the Nazi Party was dissolved, and the surviving Nazi leaders, including Hermann Göring and Heinrich Himmler, were arrested. They were later tried in the Nurenberg Trials for war crimes and crimes against humanity.